In Parshas Tetze, we learn about the mitzvah of Yibum, the levirate marriage. The Torah dictates that if a married man dies childless, the widow is to marry her dead husband's brother, preferably the eldest. The firstborn son they produce together is considered a continuation of the dead husband's line. This practice is known as Yibum, or levirate marriage. The brother-in-law is called the Yavam, the widow is called the Yavama. The pasuk says, "Lo siyeh eshet hames achutza leisha, Yavama yavo aleha, ulkacha lo leisha veyibma." The Gemara in Yevamos Daf Chav Zayin Amud Beis dashes this pasuk, and Chazal say, Omar Rav taught, Kol isha she'en ani koreh b'mishas nefila, Yavama yavo aleha, harei ke'eshes ach sheyesh lo banim ve'asura. What it means is, if at the time that the husband died, the Yavam cannot marry his sister-in-law, he can never marry her again. Even if what prevented him from marrying her has been cancelled, she is considered an eshes ach, the wife of his brother who has sons, and thus she is also to him. For example, if the deceased had a son, but shortly after he died, the son died as well. At the time that the brother died, she wasn't Yavama Yavo Aleha. The Yavam wasn't allowed to be with her, and thus there is no mitzvah, even though now his son died, and she is just like any other Eshes Ach, and the Yavam cannot have the mitzvah, cannot fulfill the mitzvah of being with his sister-in-law. Asks the Chacham Tzvi, based on this, if that's the case, we can never fulfill the mitzvah of Yibum, because the relatives of a dead person have a status of oinen. What is an oinen? Until the time of burial, from the time of death, they are exempt from all the positive commandments. And one of the positive commandments is the mitzvah of Yibum. And since at the time of death, the Yavam was exempt from the mitzvah of Yibum, as we said before, so his wife, the wife of the deceased, should remain asur to him. If that's the case, even though after burial he doesn't have the exemption of this mitzvah of being an oinen, exempt from all the mitzvahs, but since at the time that his brother died, he couldn't fulfill the mitzvah of Yibum, it should be that his sister-in-law will always be asur to him. The Yibum has answered this in Mechtevei Toya, and he explained the reason that the oinen is exempt from all the mitzvahs at the time that the dead person is in front of him, his relative, is because there's some kind of hishtatus. He's participating with the dead person in his sorrow, and the fact that the dead person cannot fulfill any mitzvahs. He also doesn't get his reward yet. And that is also the reason why an oinen is not exempt from the negative commandments, because the dead person also doesn't transgress anything there. You're not participating in his sorrow. But the mitzvah of Yibum is different than all the other mitzvahs in the Torah. Because even though it's a positive commandment, but from that mitzvah, the oinen is not exempt at that time, because it's exactly the opposite. The dead has no greater nachas ruach than the fact that his brother will marry his former wife, because he doesn't want to be forgotten from Klal Yisrael, and his brother marrying his wife, this will provide a continuation for him, and because of this reason, the mitzvah of Yibum still applies.